We are excited today to talk about something that is important for violent crime reduction and violence prevention in Kansas City, and that is our Multidisciplinary Public Safety Task Force. As you have heard already this summer, Kansas City government, our City Council, the Mayor's Office, KCPD, and so many agencies represented behind me today have been working not just on how we can enforce, but also how we can prevent, and how we can stop the repeat of tragedies that we've seen too often this spring and this summer. Earlier this summer, we saw a shooting at 57th and Prospect, where there was an auto shop owner that was operating an unlicensed club at late night hours. Thanks to the intervention of Melesa Johnson, our Director of Public Safety, with reports from the Kansas City Police Department and our Business License Office in the Department of Revenue at Kansas City Government, we were able to close down that business and make sure those types of harms don't accrue again. Today we are outside of this establishment talking about another step of what it is we're trying to do. Violent crime prevention through engagement with business owners throughout the city. This establishment has been cited for a number of different ordinance violations, and what we're endeavoring to do now is work with the business owner to make sure that they stop, to make sure that we see a limiting of drug sales on this property, to make sure that we don't see fights, shootings, and tragically homicides again, and to make sure that we do this citywide time and time again. But part of that effort is to make sure that we're talking to each other. And too many situations, and I'll admit for the 8 years I've been in public office, I've seen it time and again. We've seen that there's a place where perhaps officers have been called dozens of times, or there's a place where codes enforcement from regulated industries or other divisions have said we've seen any number of citations and violations, but we're not connecting the dots. Here, fundamentally, you're seeing Kansas City is connecting the dots, is making sure that we prevent these problems from being issues again and again and again, and that we are saying, as the Mayor Pro Tem once noted in the past, enough. People ask us sometimes, how is this different than what we were doing in the past? And I have a few answers to that. First, we've had a lot of people doing all this important work for years. The dozens of people behind me actually have regularly done these types of efforts. But we are saying now is that we're supporting each other, that we're making sure that one hand knows what the other is doing. The other thing that makes a difference is that we are investing not just substantial sums, but substantial hours to making sure we have this collaboration. You don't have to chase down 18 different meetings at City Hall to understand what's happening with one property. Our constituents don't have to say, well, I already told my city council person about something, but PD doesn't know. This will make a difference for us, and this is part of our commitment to making sure that every block in every neighborhood can be safer in Kansas City. A few things I want to note, and I'll get out of the way. The ordinance violations that we're talking about aren't just ones that relate perhaps to what you may think. They also relate to graffiti, to weeds, to things that neighbors have told us about time and time again, and for years have demonstrated to us a propensity to violent crime conduct at a property long after. And so what we expect for you to be able to see, for example, at this establishment, is that if there's a violation of our ordinances relating to illegal gaming devices, as there are, if there's violation in our ordinance relating to illegal weeds, trash, and graffiti, as there are, and if there are critical and non-critical health code violations, like there have been at this establishment, that we'll not just talk to you, we'll look to abate those nuisances, and to the extent we don't abate those concerns, we'll have to unfortunately talk about closing down the offending properties. That is the work that we're doing each and every day, and this will make a difference. A few other steps, and then I'll move on. One, we continue to work with clubs, entertainment venues, and taverns to make sure that we're doing work to ensure that they will have public safety plans long term. Recently in Wichita, Kansas, they passed an ordinance which we are evaluating, which looked at how we can make sure that where there is violent crime conduct, where there are shootings, and in some situations mass shootings, that there has to be a safety plan to ensure that that sort of conduct isn't happening again, and where there isn't a safety plan, such as hiring of private security, investment in lighting, and following City Code of Ordinances rules, then those businesses will be shut down. That's something that we're collaborating with. I appreciated the opportunity to talk to the mayor of Wichita just a few days ago about that, and we'll look forward to have more on that for you soon. And then finally this. We believe that every neighborhood in Kansas City deserves peace of mind. And what we don't want to do is what so many of us have known for years, and certainly what I knew growing up, that the convenience store down the corner was a place where a lot of bad things happened, and you just lived with it for generations. We're saying that's no more. We're going to make sure that we reduce violent crime by listening to the people, by looking at those quality of life issues, and by more than anything, focusing on places. How can we abate concern at places without necessarily interrupting the daily lives of people. So with that, I bring the sponsor of this ordinance and someone who has led on violent crime prevention. That's our Mayor Pro Tem from the 5th District, Councilwoman Ryana Parks-Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So many of you, or some of you, know that my background is in healthcare. And in healthcare, specifically hospice care is where I have most of my experience. We work in multidisciplinary teams: a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, an aide, a pharmacist works holistically, collaboratively to address issues with an individual's health. And so it occurred to me that if it can work in healthcare, why can't it work in crime prevention? And with the wonderful collaboration of the Chief Stacy Graves and of course Captain Baughman standing behind me, who will speak next, we actually have been able to work collaboratively across the street, which has not always been the case, to ensure that we are addressing public safety issues and crime prevention. The mayor has talked about some of the strategies that we are employing. I'm excited to announce that we are seeing some success, some early success. But more specifically, all of the individuals that are listed behind me have met several times already to talk about the role that they play. We not only have Kansas City city departments, we also have key stakeholders in our community. For example, as we are addressing crime and prevention, we look at the issues in the neighborhoods. Specifically, we know that some of our bus locations, our bus stops, may not be as safe. People may not feel as safe. I'm excited that the KCATA has joined in to work collaboratively with us to help increase lighting, to help increase security on the buses, as well as on the bus stops. We are also looking at land bank properties. We know that we receive many concern in our neighborhoods about the maintenance of land bank properties. So we're also working collaboratively to focus on those land bank properties that are causing the highest concern in those communities. We're also addressing the blight, illegal dumping, many things that the city is already focusing on, but we now have a more focused mission to work collaboratively, utilizing the data from the KCPD so that we can look at the places and not necessarily the people to reduce the crime that we're having in Kansas City. I was honored to sponsor this legislation and most excited that the city manager and all of the people standing behind me, and there are many more actually who are working on this effort that are not able to be here today because they're out doing the work for the people. Excited about all of the energy that we have surrounding this. Unfortunately, we know that in Kansas City, we are seeing unprecedented numbers, historical numbers of homicides in our city. But rest assured that we are working. It's going to take all of us, and you see behind us the commitment of all of us working together to address our violent crime here in Kansas City. And I believe that together we can make a difference. Next, I'm going to introduce Captain Jonas Baughman. When he asked me after the legislation was approved back in last month with the former council, and he emailed me, he said, "Councilwoman, is it possible for me to get a written copy of the legislation?" Because he wanted to commemorate this historic moment that we are implementing here. At that moment, I knew that we needed to do more because we were doing something big, and that actually is the impetus behind this press conference, as well as all of the work that we're doing, and the mayor actually signing the legislation into action today. Because he has done such fabulous work over the last several years and is an excellent leader in this. I was just excited to be able to offer that as an opportunity for him. He didn't realize we were doing this today because he asked. But I'm honored to present today Captain Jonas Baughman, who will speak next. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I was already a little nervous to speak to you all today, but now after the preceding speakers, I'm even more nervous. So I'm not nearly as eloquent. So as you can see, I printed out some notes, so I'll try and work through those fairly quickly. I'm very excited to be here this morning to share how this innovative data analysis technique called risk terrain modeling is helping transform how your municipal departments, your police department, and other stakeholders can work together to co-produce public safety here in Kansas City. Restraint modeling, or RTM, may already be familiar to some of you. KCPD, including in partnership with various city departments as recently as 2020, has used this strategy in the past with success. And we were seeing very significant results as recently as 2020, but unfortunately that year changed plans, I will simply say. But what I want to accentuate here is that today we can see that those efforts are renewed and have emerged stronger than they ever were before. Police Department and City Hall have jointly taken a significant step forward to reducing and yes, preventing violent crimes such as non-fatal shootings or armed robberies by enacting this ordinance. As for how this ordinance will work, RTM is best described as the analytical engine that will drive many of this task force's collective efforts. Whereas many crime reduction strategies are reactive and frequently focus primarily on enforcement of laws, RTM strives to be more proactive and preventive. RTM therefore provides balance between enforcement and prevention, as well as focusing on places, not people, where appropriate. RTM works by looking at the environmental features of a landscape that can attract or generate crime. Common examples may include abandoned properties, vacant lots, or as we've seen all too frequently this year, gas stations and convenience stores. We're able to analyze a variety of these environmental features and compare them to the crime problem we wish to address. The end result is a list of what are called risk factors that are statistically correlated with the problem at hand. And this is where RTM's greatest strength rests, in my opinion. With that final list of risk factors available, our task force and its partners can readily identify the group or groups best suited to address them. This allows everyone to shoulder the burden of making our city safer and more secure. For example, Public Works may look at blighted properties in a high-risk area identified in an RTM analysis, while regulated industries and the police department conduct follow-up at nearby gas stations. The health department may work to inspect a restaurant, or even better, provide other holistic programming in high-risk areas identified by an analysis. By focusing on features of the landscape where risk of crime is high, we can work to improve challenged areas from the inside out, making them less prone to victimization and less suitable areas for offenders to choose to commit their crimes. So to quickly illustrate how this works in practice, consider any of the great parks in our city. Families, including myself, take our children to play at a park because there are features of that landscape that generate and attract play, such as slides, swing sets, or merry-go-rounds. If we start to remove those playful features, however, fewer and fewer children will want to go play there. Increasing public safety with RTM works very much the same way. Application of the strategy can allow our task force to take high-risk areas and make them more resilient and stable by mitigating environmental risk with the ultimate goal of being reduction and prevention of violent crime. I'll go ahead and conclude my remarks by saying our city is facing challenging times when it comes to violence, but despite what may seem to be insurmountable challenges, there is hope. There is a way we can begin to provide a sense of safety and security for all that visit and live in Kansas City. It will likely be a long, difficult road, but it is the path worth treading for the greater good. I feel the ordinance we're celebrating and sharing with you today shows our citizens, their police department, their local government, and other stakeholders are fully committed to protecting Kansas City and making it the vibrant city we all know it can be. I look forward to seeing what our team and task force can do together. With that being said, I will now turn it over to Melesa Johnson for more comments.
Good morning. I will not rehash too much of what has already been said, but I do want to expand and build up on the message of hope that Captain Baughman just so eloquently reinstated into this conversation. Given our violent crime numbers, it's easy to feel discouraged, but this is a hopeful and promising engagement that I am so honored that I get to work with all of these amazing city leaders standing behind me, including the Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Captain Baughman. This is just another example of KCPD sharing information and data that encourages and enables other sectors of government and the community to engage and act. This is an extension of Chief Graves' announcement on May 17th, announcing the citywide violence reduction initiative, which is a partnership with city officials, community advocates, and every other sector of the city government to community and foster change. This is the next chapter of our engagement with business owners who have repeated and documented public safety challenges at their establishments. I think the mayor mentioned that in July, based on KCPD information, we were able to seek revocation of an auto shop's business license that was illegally functioning as a nightclub, even though it was not licensed to do so. And as many of you know, that business owner in particular did many news interviews and outlets pretty much abdicating any level of responsibility for what happened on June 25th, 2023, when a mass shooting took the lives of 3 people and injured 9 others. I am very, very happy to report that I had the opportunity to speak with this particular business owner here at the Express Stop, and he is collaborative. He is interested in receiving our help, and I'm looking forward to working with him more, and any other business owners that may feel like they are up against a very, very high task in keeping their establishment safe. But make no mistake, they do have that responsibility to all of their patrons and the residents of Kansas City. And so with that, I invite Mayor Lucas back to the podium to sign the ordinance establishing the Multidisciplinary Task Force, and I look forward to all of the amazing work ahead. Thank you.
I just, in brief, because I don't have all the names, wanted to just note some of the organizations that are with us today. In addition to Captain Baughman of the Kansas City Police Department, we have the Honorable Courtney Wackel of Kansas City's Municipal Court. We have representatives, as noted before, from the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, our Health Department, our Parks Department, our Neighborhoods Department, our Regulated Industries Division, and more. And Public Works. Sorry, Mike's just looking down at me like, you can't leave me out. But this is something that's going to be very important for us. As I sign, I'm going to ask the Mayor Pro Tem to come up and join me, because she has a slot here, and then Captain Baughman to join me as well, as we'll present this to him as well. Fundamentally, this is a sign that we will not give up, and we will never give up on making our community safer, no matter our challenges. So, here we are. Thank you. We'll give it to you, sir. You did so much work.
Thank you so much.
For me.